Hi, Shalan.
Hi, Prasad.
Okay, let's start.
Sure.
Um, so we can start with a little bit introduction about yourself and maybe a few of your past experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Prasad, for inviting me for this interview. So, I'm Shalan Kure, and currently I'm serving as a freelance technical lead consultant, like a consultant for multiple companies and individual clients as well. So when it comes to my educational background, so I graduated back in 2015 with my bachelor's degree from University of Moratuwa, which is Bachelor's of IT, commonly known as a BIT. So I'm a BIT guy. And later, I completed a master's in business administration, specialized in the business analytics at Cardiff Met University. And yeah, that's kind of a educational background I just wanted to highlight. So when it comes to industry experience, currently I have like 9 years full-time employee experience from associate software engineer to senior tech lead level in multiple companies. And another 1.5 to 2 years experience as a freelance consultant in last uh, 2 years, especially because after full-time employment of a 9 years time, so I decided to work as a individual freelance consultant. So at the moment, currently I'm working as that role. So in terms of my technological stack, most of the time I worked as a JavaScript full stack engineer, both front end and backend applications. So in terms of the front end side, I have mostly worked in the React, and backend definitely it's going to be Node.js as a framework. So other than that, on a couple of occasions in my previous project, I worked in AngularJS as well. AngularJS means the earlier version of the Angular when before it moves into the TypeScript, and also another Angular project I have worked with the TypeScript as well. Other than that, I am hands-on experience working in multiple mobile application projects using the Flutter, which is a cross-platform app development framework by Google. Uh, yeah, there is kind of a technological background. In terms of the project experience, I don't want to explain one by one at the moment. When it comes to the upcoming questions from you, maybe I can take example from one of my projects and explain. In terms of the project, so I have been working and worked for like 10 more than 10 to 15 industrial level projects. Yeah, that's about me and my experience, Prasad.
Right, excellent. Since you mentioned your tech stack is pretty much leaning into MERN stack, which is mainly React and Node.js, let's start with the front end side. Why would you choose React over AngularJS? I mean, since you started from both sides, why you went more into React?
Yes, it's basically React is a little bit easier for me when it comes to the learning curve. Angular has a bit of learning curve because it requires TypeScript and RxJS, like more complicated stuff to learn. But when it comes to the React give us a developer as a front end developer to use just JavaScript plus JSX. If I am coming from a TypeScript background, we can either use the TypeScript as well. That flexibility is there because we can choose our own tools to develop our front-end application. But when it comes to the Angular, there's a strict structure forced developers to adhere to their architecture. There is a kind of another thing I use React because of the flexibility and the learning curve. And also when it comes to performance as well. So for a small applications and to large application, we can use the React because it uses the virtual DOM. It is very faster for updates. without refreshing the whole page. So it supports that virtual DOM facility along with the React. When it comes to the Angular, there is a two-way data binding mechanism, sometimes which can slow on larger application. That is a kind of another thing in terms of the performance side when I am choosing React, because most of the time I have used React in small application to medium scale and large application. Those three type of applications I have to use, and I have to consider the performances as well. And other than that, what we call the community is very large for React. A lot of support is available in the open source community, but for Angular, the community is very smaller compared to the React, and mostly enterprise basis custom developers and companies are using the Angular. Yeah,
Right.
that's why basically I choose the React or Angular.
Yeah, very good. Since you mentioned about how the virtual DOM work in React, do you know what is behind the handling the virtual DOM, which is called reconciliation, and how the mechanisms works?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah. Can I take an example for that?
Yep,
Like,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
For example, let's say we have a React component with a list items. Okay. And that component itself has a small button
Hmm.
to input, get an input from user. That list has, let's assume this list has a list of fruits
Hmm.
like banana, apple, and orange. At the initial rendering, it has three items in the list. Okay.
Right.
But when user clicks the button on this component, it's going to, the program is going to add another fruit item to the that list. Let's say it's going to be at the avocado. Okay.
Right.
The reconciliation process is happening like this. When the initial render, virtual DOM is created and represent the component structure, right?
Right.
Then when the user interaction, what we the virtual DOM is doing, it is going to compare the previous state, which is going to be three items, and with the new item is going to be added into the list, which is calling like there is a diffing algorithm behind the
Hmm.
scene that compare the previous virtual domain, what is going to be updated with the user click. So with that, with the minimum DOM update, it is going to add that new item into the list without re-rendering all the list, because React asking us to always, when we are using a list items, asking us to use a key prop for each
Yeah.
list item, right?
Yeah.
So virtual DOM in that reconciliation process, that diffing process is identified using that unique key. If the DOM has already the keys are defined, they are not going to re-render. But if they are going to come with a new key, the virtual DOM will be injected with a new key. That's how the reconciliation process is happening.
Right. Good. And if you have the same key multiple times, we will get that warning, right?
Yes,
Because you can't put the same key twice.
yes.
Right. Yeah. Good. So, since you mentioned that you picked React over other frameworks like Angular because of one reason would be the performance, right?
Hmm.
Because React provides a much better performance. Could you explain some ways to boost the performance in React application? So application you use or you write in React.
Yeah, and there are like couple of techniques we can use. So the main thing come into my mind is the useMemo uh, hook provided by the React itself. So which is allow us to optimize the expensive computations because we can use the use state, but it is like to re-render the whole component structure again and again if there are changes. But React itself providing a inbuilt hook useMemo to memorize the previous calculations and only only re-render when a new update comes in. And another thing, I think we can use callback hook as well to prevent the function recreation in child components. That is another thing comes to my mind when it comes to the performance optimization. And keys are another thing we can use in the list as well. And also for API calls, for example, let's say user is searching for some query for a product or in a sales application, sales ordering application or food ordering application, user is going to search for some particular item. So when that is time, the API front end is going to hit API again and again with the user keyboard strike. We can use debouncing and throttling. So there are multiple libraries allow us to integrate it into the our application React application and handle those debouncing and throttling using the React itself. So which are going to be some performance enhancements. Other than that, what comes to my mind is even though we can use the react.memo function to prevent unnecessary re-renders as well. Yeah, those are few things come into my mind when it comes to the best practices for performance optimization in React.
Yeah, cool. Can we go to a simple example using a code? How you would use memo over uses? Because when even for me, when I write applications, I would not like to use state for
Hmm.
things involving with API data, even at least for constants or variables that are not being updated over the state. I would
Yeah.
rather use React. I mean, use Memo, right?
Yes.
Can you share the screen and whatever code compiler you could use, and
Yeah.
can you show me how usually use Memo use?
Yeah. Let me start sharing my screen. So
Yeah,
let me switch off my video for a moment.
no worries.
I'm going to open up with the code sandbox React sample project, right? Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
And that's going to be easy.
yeah.
Can you see my shared screen now?
Yeah, can see
Right.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let me check this is working or not. I just opened up. Yes, it's working.
Yeah,
I want to open up the console. Yes, this is right. Yeah, yeah. Code is working. Let me start with doing kind of a small state. Let's assume we have two variables, count and with a state. This is going to be like holding a count for a particular now event.
yeah.
Initially state going to be 0. Then let me add a number and right.
Right.
So now I'm going to do a small calculation using these numbers, right? I'm
Right.
going to write a small function. Calculate the entered number or whatever. I'm not going to enter anything, but I'm going to hard code
Yeah.
everything. Okay.
Right.
Want to console log this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a number from here, and I'm going to return the calculation of entered numbers.
Okay.
Sorry, sum of the entered numbers one by one for each iteration.
Mhm.
Check. And here I'm going to use a function variable and to calculate sum and the number. Initial number is going to be this. Okay.
Okay.
And now in my use state is notified.
I think you have a typo. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
use state. Yeah. Yes. Here let's type like sum of first number. Let's get the sum. This is going to happen with a button click. I'm going to just,
Mhm.
I don't want to come too much complicated with the input. So let's
Okay.
have like on click. What this on click is going to do is this count is going to increase by one
Mhm.
each time every time.
Okay.
Set count, and I have the count. Initial count is 0 and plus 1. Yeah, I have to close the button. Please count. Okay,
Okay.
let me check what is happening. Yeah, the program is working. Let me see what is going to be like two numbers.
Where would you use the set number?
Yeah, let me copy paste and set number. I'm going to number and by increase number. Yes, the program is working.
Right.
In here, you can see the calculating is working, even the calculation, this function.
Right.
Console log is working even though I am increasing the count.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is not doing any calculation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, calculation should happen only when I do the number, increase number.
Yeah.
Yeah, because set number is changing only when this value, this part is executing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I can do is I can use memo to memorize this sum function, right?
Right. Right.
Let's try doing it. Comment out this one. Uh, this needs to be changed only when the number dependency change, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just only need to re-render this, don't need to re-render, otherwise, when the increase, if I click the increase count, this is going to be changed again if I put the count as well here, right?
Right.
So now I'm going to do my calculation part, the logical part here. N is not defined. Ah, yes. Here we don't have passing the n. Now we have the number.
Yeah.
Number itself. Sorry. Yes. Let's. Yeah. Okay. Now I refresh. Initial rendering happens.
Mm-hmm.
Calculating. So let's try clicking the increase count.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can see I am clicking the increase count, but the calculating part is not printing. That means the entire component is not re-rendering. But now
Right.
the increased number, you can see that's the only way the re-rendering is happening.
Yeah. Right.
This is how we can use memo for this kind of a small or larger computation to minimize the performance issues.
Cool. Good example. Thanks. Thanks, Shala.
Okay,
Good.
let's get that.
You can turn off the screen share.
Yeah. Still my screen is sharing.
Yeah, I think so. You can go to the share and click on stop sharing.
Yeah, where is it? Stop sharing.
Let me take over the screen sharing from you. Let's see if it works. Replace current share. Let me.
Can't see.
Let
Ah,
me.
here. I
Got it?
can see. Yeah, yeah. Bottom of the
Hmm. This, yeah. Zoom interface has been changed
yeah.
recently. It's very confusing. Yeah. All right. So another performance-based question I have.
Mhm.
So when we develop most of the parts of backend and frontend, we use endpoints. I mean REST APIs to either REST APIs or the
WebSocket.
GraphQLs or WebSockets to bring the data from the backend. And since you have let's take a complex UI where you need to put different kind of, or let's say call different kind of endpoints together or set of endpoints together and create one data set to populate the UI. So we can do this from both sides. I mean, create that particular data set. We can either collect all the necessary data from the database and process all of them, whatever the manner, and you can gather those data into a single data set, and you can pass it through a single endpoint to the front end. So backend is responsible for the data hydration, where you collect all the data from different parts and uh, collect them into a single one.
Mhm.
And front end could just use that endpoint. So that endpoint would have pretty much everything you need to populate the front end, even though it
Mm.
is regardless of how much the front end is complex. Or you could just pass through all the data through your endpoints to the front end, just like models. So you have a couple of models, and you can just pass all the data related to different models to the front end using, let's say, maybe 10 endpoints, 10 API calls. So
Mm.
your front end would call all those 10 endpoints, and front end have now the responsibility to gather that data set and populate the front end or the UI, right? So you can gather data from both sides. Can you think about uh, when we need to do that data collection or do that hydration from the front end over back end? We know we can do both, but usually when we need to do that from the front end side, like which kind of example you could bring? We need to do that from the front end side.
Yeah. Mm, as as from my previous project experience, so there was a scenario we had it's like a sales order related application. The entire it's a large scale organization, and the entire sales ordering system was on a React application. The React application is using by different kind of stakeholders, top management and business administrators, and also to their customers as well. And the customers base is not that much larger one because it's a kind of a B2B business organization, and the customer base is very limited. But this different type of stakeholders are there. There was a scenario we have to display this different kind of user interfaces for different stakeholders. For example, business administrator role, as I remember, yes, business administrator role have the access to all the customer related data. For example, sales orders, number of sales orders, the list of sales orders, invoices, payments, and so on. That set of data set is very large, and there are some filtering, sorting needs to be done because when business administrator log into the system, he or she can see the entire set of customer related sales orders and invoices and payment. In that time, we have used the backend hydration part because we cannot load more than like the data set was like more than 50,000 for a month of period, at least month of period. So we thought we cannot process all that kind of a data set in front end, get the whole set of data set to the front end and handle the filtration and sorting the front end because the initial uh, latency is going to be a little bit higher. Because of that, we try to implement that part in the backend side using the pagination, just retrieving the set of sales orders, invoices, 10 to 20, like that, because of the data set is higher. But when it comes to the customer user interface, customer don't have that much of invoices or sales orders for a particular period for a month or last 2 months because customer just want to see the latest invoices or the previous month invoices or sales orders because after 1 month or two they don't just wanted to look at those things. That part is handled by the business administrator or another high level stakeholder for a reporting and stuff. For customer interface, we have used the front-end hydration because set of sales orders like less than 1,000, maybe just over 1,000, we fetch all the sales orders into the front end, and from the front end, we have handled all the filtering and sorting like mechanism. For that, we use material React table, as I remember. At that time, version 2 or version 1, I have used. That React library, material React table, was very helpful to do that front-end hydration in a more efficient way because the customer don't feel any latency because in the first load, all the uh, sales orders for a particular period load into the his user interface. He can quickly search. He don't see any latency because front end that React material table allow us to do this front-end hydration in a very efficient manner. That is a place I think I have used the hydration. I can suggest this front-end hydration, especially for small to medium data set. More specifically, if the data set is less than 10,000, with the row size is very small. If the row size is very small and the record set is less than 10,000, I can suggest to go with this kind of a approach with the front-end hydration. And if the user is frequently interacting with the data set and the user interface, that is another place we have to use the front-end hydration, and that is then the feel like for a user, it's feel like a real-time update for him.
Right. Yeah, good example. Thank you. So basically, if that single endpoint would be useful, I mean, when the with your answer, what I heard was if you hide it in from the backend, it would be better to use only like once or a couple of times, like limited
Yes.
number of times on the front end. So we hit that endpoint only once from the backend, so we can use it from the front end. If you interact more with the backend, like more frequently, you need to hide it from the front end. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. I have one scenario. Let's get into the scenario.
Okay.
So this is about like we usually get this kind of this is also a part of data hydration actually. So like it is pretty much connected to the previous question as well in a different way. Suppose we have two endpoints, right? So we are going to hit these two endpoints from the backend. So we get two different data sets. And what we need is we need to combine these two data sets into a single one. And I will go into some a little bit depth of this where you hit one endpoint. Let's call it, let's give it a name called transactions, let's say.
Mhm.
In this transaction endpoint, you will get like an array of 10,000 objects or 10,000 items, let's say. So there are a huge number of transactions. Let's say we don't do any, paginations through the front, I mean the backend. We just get the whole transactions data set through this transaction endpoint. And also there's another endpoint, let's call it like games. So we get this games endpoint, and this games endpoint provides you a data set with, let's say 300 uh, items or games. And uh, in the transactions endpoint, as I mentioned, you have around 10,000 items, and the ID key would be the primary key. So there are 10,000 different IDs are there.
Mhm.
And on the other side, on the games endpoint, you will get 300 games. And there will be a key called transaction ID, which is mapped to each transaction ID or the ID in the transaction endpoint. So you can map each transaction ID to this games transaction ID. And let's say all the games have one transaction ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some games can have the same transaction ID too. That's so you don't have to be strict with any comparison. The target is the goal is to get these games with a particular or with matched transaction object where you currently have only the transaction ID. So you have, let's say, you are looking at the games object or games array expanded version, and you will see uh, different kind of attributes related to games. And among that, you will see transaction IDs, thing called transaction ID. What you need is you need to add another key called transaction, and that transaction would be the object of the particular transaction from the transaction dataset. You can get that by matching the transaction ID with the transaction ID from the game with the ID
Mm-hmm.
of the transaction. To do that, so that with that pre-processed data, we could use that. So that is the part of the hydration one. That is the hydration process, and you could use that data set to populate the UI. I have actually the
Yeah.
code. This is not a pre-processed or
It,
workable code. This is
the
like a sample. Yep.
transaction and games relationship is like something like a post and comment, that kind of a the post.
Uh, so post have comments. One post
Yes.
have multiple comments, and
Uh-huh.
that one particular comment would belong to post. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Okay.
And I will send you the rough code through the chat, so
Mm-hmm.
you can copy from there, and you can paste this code into your um, code sandbox.
Okay.
And then, you can just pick one JS file and clear that file and paste this code, and you can share the screen. This doesn't have to be workable. I just need the concept.
Okay. My screen is shareable.
Uh, not yet. Let's see. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. How can I access the chat now? Yeah.
You still have the chat at the bottom, I think. Yeah.
Let me go to the previous one and just let's open it
Yeah.
now.
Let's say games or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Games.js.
.js. Yeah.
Yes. Let's see what is going on here.
Right.
Yes.
So you have two states, transaction state and game state. Both are set to null as initial state, and you have two Axios API calls.
Mm.
And this processed games is the thing I'm looking for. I
Mm-hmm.
need to map the games, so I will have the same set of games, but
Mm.
you know, I am going to spread the game object, so I will get I will get all the games or items in the games as it is, and then additionally I'm adding the transaction. Um, oh yeah, the interface does some formattings.
Mm.
The transaction is, but I'm
Anyway,
trying to yeah.
yeah, this code is not going to work like
Yeah,
this because this needs to be going to a component, functional component or something like
yeah, yes.
use it.
This is just a code fraction.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just to give the idea. So the transaction. Um, I'm going to add this transaction. I'm actually adding this transaction key,
Mm-hmm.
which is a process to find the transaction from the transaction dataset
Mm-hmm.
by matching the transaction ID. So this would actually work if you put this
Yes.
into a proper functional component with all the all the setup with Axios and pretty much everything. The problem is I can see a bit of expensive process is going here because these transactions dot find would find a transaction among 10,000 transactions because you
Mm.
have that number of transactions in your data set. And the best case would be you would find the very first, or you would find very first transaction throughout the
Mm.
database. That would be the best case. The worst case, the worst case would be the matching transaction would be at the very end,
Last.
or the
Yeah.
10,000, last one. So, how would you manage this expensive process? So you would get like less number of iterations or number of repetitions to find the transaction, and how would you manage this or improve this to get a
Yeah.
better performance
Let's,
than this?
let's see. Let's see. Okay. In here, it's like the computational wise, as you said, if we found the matching transaction ID and the game transaction ID at the last, so computations are like number of games multiplied by transactions, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like this. The games, how many transactions you have to?
Transactional list 10,000 and games around 300.
Yeah, yeah, very into. Yeah, the
Yeah.
kind of this
Yeah.
calculation is going to need to happen. Iterations have to be go through this. So
Yeah.
I think we can reduce that by using lookup map function. We
Hmm.
can use the lookup map function for transaction. Then we can return like mapped transaction, and then we can assign here using the mapped transactions. Let me try explaining using a code block.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, so we have the transactions. Yes. Let's, yeah. And we can use the reduce inbuilt JavaScript function.
Okay.
For that, I think we need to have a callback function, which is going to be the yes current value. Yes, we can pass the, let's say, new map, new transactions, and the current transaction. Right. Close this. Here, what we can do is from here, new transaction, because this is going to be the new one,
Hmm.
and going to be attached with transaction dot uh, is, let's say, here transaction ID is going to be here,
Hmm.
ID with this transaction, and we can return this new transaction now, transaction map. It's like a mapped one. So after doing this one, we can simply use this newly constructed the transaction map here as a assignment, and not like this. We have to match with the current game dot, I mean, in this map iteration, it
Yeah.
needs to be current game dot what was that?
Transaction ID.
Transaction ID.
Yeah.
Yes. I think this kind of a mechanism will going to help to reduce that into like the computations like game plus transactions. Transactions. Yeah. Like the worst case is going to be like 1,300,
300.
10,300. Is that
Right.
the kind of answer you were expecting or another way?
Yeah, actually, this is pretty much it. I mean, very close. So yeah, not close actually. This is the exact answer I was looking for, just different names.
Hmm.
I would use the name arrayable object because this is kind of object. So this is
Hmm.
when you say map transaction visit, initially I thought you are going to return or you are going to process another uh, I mean another array, but this is what we are looking for, right? We
Hmm.
need that object where you have all the um, transactions as values in each keys, and the key would be the transaction ID. So you have an object with transactions IDs, and you can just assign that uh, transaction by looking for the ID from the game. So that is pretty much it. In a better version, actually, we could create a class to use it to process this your map transactions process, right? So
Hmm.
you can create, for example, we can create a class named arrayable object, and you can use that arrayable object class instance to create an, or you could directly assign that to the you can directly assign that to the Axios get call
Hmm.
after set transactions. So the transaction or the output or the return from the Axios get call would be returned as an arrayable object or your mapped transactions. So this would process it initially, and whatever the number of times you would run this application or run this process, you would get the same, like you said, game plus transactions. So
Hmm.
pretty much the same number, uh, and you would reduce that expensive function into a very small one.
Yeah. Even though one thing I can suggest is like we can use a promise solve for this too to wrap these Axios to calls and only after that happens inside the promise we can do this mechanism as well. So which will improve more code complexity, the time complexity again, and we can guarantee the values as well, the returning values from the transaction and games.
Yeah, obviously. So you could cut the cut the error half of it. So you
Yeah.
would only, yeah, you would only render this if you get resolved
Hmm.
it through the promise. So you could cut one half of it, which is by the unnecessary re-renders through the errors, right? Error
Yes.
side. Yeah, good one. Thanks. Uh, okay. I think that part is done. Next question is actually another scenario-based question. This is maybe we don't need to involve with any uh, coding part.
Okay.
Another screenshot, I can just explain this scenario to you. And I have a couple of questions with that scenario, so you could answer one by one. Um, let's say you are building a form component where you have a dynamic form, right? When I say dynamic forms, you would know that dynamic form could have different kind of form fields come from uh, different places. And also this form is like a wizard. So you can click next to go to the next part of it, because usually we do this split processing to split different parts of the form into different UIs or like kind of pagination. So you
Hmm.
would get only the relevant phase of that form in a
Form
single
wizard,
page. Yeah,
kind of form
form
wizard.
wizard. And if suppose you are the user, if while you are typing or filling the form, let's say your internet connection goes offline, but still you need to complete the form submission to have a better user experience.
Mhm.
And once you are done with form filling and when you hit submit, maybe you could get a notification like you are now offline. Um, let like let us do the rest of the part of the form submission while once your internet connection is back, something like that, right?
Hmm.
So basically, user could go offline or user could close the application. And once the user get back to the application, at that time you could identify that the user was in the middle of form submission, so we can complete that part now, and you can go to the rest. This is something you can experience while doing like Google Forms, like Google Docs, spreadsheets, different kind of online applications that you have right now, some advanced applications. Could you explain how you would do this? Let's say, let's go one by one. First of all, uh, what is the benefit, would you think, of having a form builder for this scenario to generate a like dynamic form rather than using just native form components?
Yeah, it's like let's say if it is like I actually experienced that in the recent AWS registration scenario. A couple of
Hmm.
days back, I created a new AWS account uh, for a project. So in there, they have like this wizard. Uh, First, they are asking for my uh, name, whether I'm organization or personal. And first page, they are capturing the personal or company related data. Then the second screen, the address related data. In the third screen, they are getting the billing and the payment related information like credit card and so. So in there, I recently faced the issue was my internet connection wasn't that much good. I lost my internet connection, but while in the third step where I'm putting my credit card details into the registration form, so I lost my internet connection. But when I came back into the registration, like in for the same page, they directly uh, navigate me back to the third step. That means they have already keep my previous entered data in a uh, some kind of a way. That is the point. I think basically the user experience is pretty much good in terms when this kind of a situation happens. That's why I think you are asking me why this kind of scenario is
Yes.
important. Yeah, for me, it's the user experience. I don't need to go back and again fill my personal details and company details and the address details. So I'm
Yeah.
just need to add the third step, the payment details, and proceed with the sign up process.
Yeah, exactly. That's the scenario we need.
Yes.
Um, cool. So my question was, let's say you're going to build this dynamic form where you
Hmm.
where you have to process each and every field, right? So uh, I know still you can use native React components or just HTML5 input components to build this form, but what would you see as an advantage if you use a form builder for this scenario?
Yeah. But then the boilerplate code is going to be very less if you are using already developed and uh, the usage is higher third party library like the into my mind, like the React hook forms I have used in one project.
Hmm.
So if we can use something like that, so it's going to be reduce little overhead from the development time because it already have inbuilt error handling, the all the caching mechanism. So we can use that kind of a third-party library, and some other popular libraries are like for React Formic.
Hmm.
So I remember, yes, we can use that kind of things because it will help development front-end developer to reduce the unwanted time to spend to do the research and development rather than using these already implemented solutions using a React for more like a Formic library.
Right. And with that, you could also get the benefit of form validation as well, right?
Yes, yes, validation and
Yeah.
some other with the even though we can connect with the state management as well, like Redux or whatever state management tool we are using, they are support pretty much all of the available state management solutions for
Right.
React.
Yeah. It's good you mentioned that because my next question was around that because if you have this scenario, does the API client you are going to interact with this? Suppose you don't you haven't still integrate your API client yet,
Mhm.
and with the scenario, what would you choose? Is that um, very applicable for the scenario? How would you choose the API client, like let's say, or either Axios or Redux query or React query, or does
Uh,
it matter? What is the
yeah,
what's the
I
one you used?
with the latest knowledge I gathered from regarding to these, the React, what we call RTK query, as I remember, RTK query was
Mhm.
very good in terms of this kind of situation. Even for it help us to reduce lot of boilerplate code to write in the React application when it comes to state management or API calling, because RTK query framework come with the Redux, which can be used for this kind of a scenario, Prasad. I
Okay.
suggest that tool if you already know or you have used or you haven't used, try that one. That is a very easy for developers to handle and very easy to manage the all this kind of API or state management stuff for this kind of scenario.
Right. Okay. So with that RTK query, can you briefly explain how would you like use that set of technologies to persist the current state of the form from the or on the client's device at the time you are going offline?
Yeah, that can be depend on the size of the response or request we are going to perform with the APIs and to API or from API. So for small size of a request response, we can keep in like a local storage if the that is because local storage is very limited. We cannot store very large. We like lot of things, very small things, but we can use like IndexedDB, IDB library, you know, that is best for the structured data and support large data sets if the API request or response is a large one. So we can keep that in IndexedDB,
Mhm.
or maybe we can use service workers to store the API responses for offline usage.
Mhm.
Either one can we can choose or depend on the situation. If it is a large, if it is a medium scale, if it is a very small one, we can use local storage, index DBO, service workers.
Okay, good. Actually, you mentioned one good point where we always forget to mention. the service workers, because since we are using web applications, we actually don't. I think we personally, I don't think we are getting the real benefit of service workers so far, right? Because you can
Yeah.
use service workers for many things, including you can convert the whole application into a web application. I mean, the whole web application into a single standalone application, and you could use benefit of using your computer file system. So you could, like you mentioned, you could even
Hmm.
store those things in your hard disk by, yeah, going into a standalone application. That's actually good. Um, so, do you know one way or a trick or like whatever the mechanism you could auto resubmit the thing you just stored on the client's device when the client has got the internet connection back?
I haven't tried any mechanism. Maybe the background sync. We can we use background sync kind of a mechanism
Like
to get the previous events.
background sync means like you are running a background, like a different thread um, using web workers, like initially started and then listening to the internet connection, like in
Yeah,
regular time frame. Yeah, that could work as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one way you could use it.
Actually in a web application, I haven't used this in a React application or Angular application, but in an early stage of my mobile application, I have used this background thing that is in a Flutter application, because sometimes the mobile we have to display that if the user is working on the application, normally mobile users are turn off the mobile data and so on. So in order to inform user your internet connection is interrupted, we are uh, showing the notification on top of the application. For that, we have used something like that in a previous project, as I remember.
Right, right. Yeah, that's one way you could go it. And also when you click on submit, the submit button,
Mm.
and so if you are using RTK query, you are executing a mutation, right? When you
Yeah.
submit the button as a post request. So at that time, if you got lost the internet connection, there's a module called auto reconnect in the RTK query. So
Mm.
you could wrap your implementation of the RTK query with that auto reconnect. Then at the time you submit your data set, you see by executing the mutation, and if that mutation got failed due to network inactivity, that auto reconnect would retry once the internet connection is back. So
Mm. Mm.
that's one thing you could use as well.
Yeah.
All
Thank you
right,
very much.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, let's go into the next question, the next scenario. Let's say you are, let's go into some, we took some time to explain about performance and user experience. Let's go into some security side of the front-end application. So how you deal with security
Mm.
in React applications. Let's say you have a front end, or you are going to build a front end using React for a banking system. So when it comes to banking and financial, all those things, the security is a strict way to go and a must to implement, right? Um, and it is very crucial to have, you know, security implementations, at least standards to implement with that application. Um, can you mention how you would secure the authentication and authorization process in React application? Like always, you can deal with um authorized backend endpoints, but how
Mm.
you would implement such stuff on the front end?
Yeah. For authentication, simply I would use the auth2 with the JWT tokens.
Mhm.
And other than that, that can be even a basic authorization or whatever things. But I would recommend to add an extra security layer with a multi-factor authentication mechanism as well.
Mhm. You mean to the logging scenario or the
Yes,
sign up
so
process?
authentication. Yeah, login.
Okay. Then if
Even
you
even even if we have the ability to implement the biometrics
Mhm.
uh, authentication, we could use that as well
Okay.
in our mobile banking or online banking system.
Right. Then how would you secure your transaction data? Or let's say you have a data set to submit to the backend using a post request or
Mm.
using a mutation if you use RTK query. Do you have any mechanism to protect those data on flight by submitting when you submit that data from the front end to the backend side, like
Uh,
to prevent any attack?
you mean like XSS prevention,
Yeah.
CSFR protection? Yeah.
Yeah. You have different kind of attacks. Let's
Mm.
say if you have cross-site forgery,
Mm.
do you know any mechanism to protect that data?
So we can use same site cookies and CSRF tokens, and even though we can use the cause as well to check the origination, request origination, and the response origination to
Mhm.
validate that.
So you can map or match the origins and also using tokens, right? And also you can attach CSRS headers
Mm.
and X token headers to the endpoint. So the endpoint would identify that's actually you
Yeah,
are the authorized user uh, who's calling
yeah.
the
Even
endpoint.
even if the endpoint is protected, can be protected using the authentication token received from the during the authentication process.
Mhm. Right. Okay. All right. Cool. I have one last scenario.
Mhm.
This is actually a currently, let's say, personally, for me, it's not, but the community is saying that micro frontends is the new trend. I don't see it as much, but it is still useful. I think micro frontend is also useful, but it still would use monolithic. But as per the community, micro frontend is the current trend. We have different opinions on that. But have you worked with micro frontends, or do you know what is micro frontend?
Uh, I I haven't worked in a micro front end, but I have heard because in one of my previous companies, there was a one micro front end project. Uh, my colleagues were working, so
Mhm.
they were like talking about that, but suddenly that approach has been again moved back to the monolithic application.
Mhm.
But for me, like it's like a good uh, approach to manage the each and individual features in a large scale application, because small development teams can handle the separate features. Let's say uh, for a large banking system, not a Sri Lankan bank. Let's say it's a international banking system. For loan specific related module can handle by specialized domain related development team, and the savings related stuff can handle by another team, and the customer relationship management part of the banking system can handle by the specialized team, rather than everyone working on a single code base, working on a different code base, and then uh, working, sorry, the application providing as a single solution with the multiple micro front ends without a seamless with a seamless uh, approach to the end user. It's like good for the like development perspective, but sometimes it make teams to like disconnected from each other some scenarios because some that people the as I said loan module development team don't have understanding about the savings related module team what are they are doing. That kind of disconnection can happen because they are working on a separate environment, but technology wise and the architecture wise that is kind of a very good approach to achieve if I got a chance to work.
Right. Okay. Why? I mean, micro frontend is good, but and I'm not against that. But my opinion was, um, if we are going to build an application for a single project, my personal feeling is, or my personal opinion is, we need to have that code at a in a first in a firstly we can initiate and develop the project, and then you can hire more people to the project. You can extend the project into different kind of manner, but the code has to be in a single place, right?
Hmm.
One part of the community is arguing that uh, it is something like microservices in Java. So we are
Yeah.
going to they are bringing that concept to the front end. But my point is, or my counterword is, I don't see any microservice benefit, or the benefit that you are going to get by using the microservices into Java, that you are not going to get in the micro front end, right? Micro front
Hmm.
end is just about splitting the application into different front ends, and you are going to gather them in a single, let's say, single entry point, and you build that application. But my point is, you are not going to get that benefit of using that microservice architecture or concept, what you get from the backend or the Java, right?
Yeah.
But still, I think micro frontend is good, but we have to be careful about how you use or when to use it. That's one thing I usually do it. And even if I was asked to create micro frontend application for a scenario, I would ask why. Uh, if I'm not getting the proper answer for that question why, I'm just going to use the monolithic front-end application, because that's my personal opinion is that's how you should do a front end. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, yeah,
Even
my next,
there are some challenges as well because can I add few to that? Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, because some challenges can happen because performance related issues can be happen, but we can minimize those performance issues by uh, because different modules can develop in a different way. Because let's say if you are using the React, the pattern of the coding in the React for different teams and different modules can be uh, differ. Because if that all together everybody not agreed into a, single page, we are using Redux for this module, and another module is using a different state management for React. So that is going to be a problem. So some performance issues can be happen, but if the whole micro front end teams persons who are developing can agree to a uh, single agreement, we are doing this framework for this application and we are using the same one and you are using the same one, so the communication have to be uh, more accurate and more up to date in order to over reduce
Everything
the
about the,
kind of
yeah,
situation, and versioning when it comes to the versioning and compatibility of the applications, some module is used behind the versioning and another module is behind another versioning, and compatibility can be a issue because if
yeah,
one module is depend on another module, let's say another team is developing a shared modules for a front end,
Yeah.
for all of the other things. If one single module is not using a different third-party library and other one is using another third-party library, so those kind of versioning gaps can be also happen because it's not the like actually you said it's not like Java, Spring Boot or whatever backend services related Microsoft, not like that because they have their uh, forced structure to follow, right? But
Yeah.
for React like application, it's not followed. But I think for if we are using the Angular, we can achieve some kind of a micro front end architecture kind of a pattern using the Angular because Angular has that is strict kind of their uh, suggestions for the user to strict into a particular architecture, right? Using
Yeah.
the modular based architecture and the dependency injection, everything is there. Uh, then developers can follow a particular set of rules.
Yeah, I agree. I think Angular would be more qualified for the micro front ends than React. Yeah, I agree because that particular structured way or structured manner
Hmm.
would be very applicable for Angular. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. The last part of it, I mean the last part of the interview. So, suppose another scenario where you have to build, you have to create a React application or front end that is very strict to use with the components that you are going to use in the or that you are going to implement. Suppose you have different kind of components like button components or calendar components, different kind of drop downs. You have different kind of UI components you need to use, and usually if we have the responsibility to pick a library to use those components, we would use either Material or Bootstrap or and design or whatever it is. But uh, if we don't have that control with us, or in this scenario, let's say you don't have that control with you, you have to be very strict about those components and you have to create those components by yourself. And let's say you have to uh, keep those components on your local. So you only have to access your local or the other half of your program to access those components. So let's say you have another team to build those components, like those components you could get from the material library. But if you use material library, you are always depend on the material library, right? So
Yeah.
you have to be compatible with their versions. You have to update your application time to time according to their versions. So in this scenario, this is something else that you have to maintain your own library components. I mean component library. Can you mention a methodology you could use to do this?
Yeah. Uh, you mean like, let's say I am a, okay. Let me simplify the question answer.
Mhm.
And okay. In a React application, let's say large scale application, I am working as a just the junior front end developer. Okay, I don't have the facility to access the whole code base and run that code base in my local machine due to security reasons. My responsibility as a junior front end developer, to build some shared uh, React components to utilize from the main application. For example, we have a list of accordion component, which is going to be a fully customized, and the color designs and the styling sizes are provided to me.
Yeah,
So, but I can't run that run and see the look and feel how the accordion component is going to be in my application, but I have to uh, run in my local machine with a some mechanism. So what I'm going to use is like a the framework like storybooks, which is like framework agnostic tool, which can be used with a React or Angular or Vue.js. So we can develop our components or widgets independently without attaching to the page or screen i- independently, and we can pass the test data, whatever mock data, and we can do the styling and see how if a user enter a maximum number of text or sub paragraph into that accordion, how it is going to behave, that kind of a thing. All the micro level testing can be done using a storybooks and develop my accordion component and hand over to the main development team. So, like I said, I'm going to using that kind of approach for my component development for React or whatever front end related frameworks, because like storybooks, it's a popular one. I have used that one in my smaller days, junior days. That's why I remember this scenario in my first job. I haven't got a chance to work in with the senior developers don't ask me to touch the production or the running code. They just
Yeah.
ask me to develop your own component or whatever things and test it and hand over to us. So we will do the integration part. So that's why I actually remember that name, the storybooks. I haven't used for a long period, but I think now the technology has evolved. More frameworks like storybooks have been there. Would like to touch and feel the experience those things, how those are going to work. Maybe with the new AI technologies, maybe we can simply do all those stuff what we have done in the past with hours of time within nowadays in within 10 to 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, storybook storybooks comes in very handy with by in terms of managing your own style components, and like you mentioned, with latest AI tools, like if you use Copilot, you could use you could uh, use the storybooks to develop some components within just like in seconds, right?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. But still, we need the storybook concept because sometimes we can't use, we are not allowed to use other external libraries for different kind of reasons. Sometimes security reasons, sometimes compliance reasons.
Yeah.
For different kind of reasons, we still have to manage our own. Sometimes we have to manage our own components. Yeah, cool. And this is about what recent news we got. Sadly, one of my favorite module called Create React App has been deprecated. Right? Recently, they stopped uh, providing services for Create React App. Do you know any reason why they did that? And but right now, what are the built-in tools you could use to create new React application?
As I remember, I got that news on last Valentine Day, 14th February. They have React.dev has announced the deprecation of the
Yeah,
CRA. So I just got I have subscribed to their newsletter. So I got that email to that article on their React.dev site on the February 14th. I have remembered that thing. So they said like the the lack of flexibility and some performance issue concerns with when compared to the recently evolved technologies like Next.js and White, like those kind of new frameworks overcoming this the very small CRA concept. So that's the main reason they are stopping that they are support and maintenance for the CRA. And they are suggesting developers to existing React developers who have used their CRA for build the application, start the application, and bundle and build the application process, React application process. They are suggesting like to use the White or Next.js for faster development, and they are also supporting something similar to more than something similar to CRA.
Yeah. And also that's actually correct. And also in a different forum, I noticed that one developer said that um, even though you could create application using CRA, create a app, you always have to update the file structure
Hmm.
that is being automatically built from the creator, because you have to deal with different kind of React router stuff, and also you have to gain the ability of React router by installing the React router domain again, and it comes with a different file structure where you have to update all the files from the beginning, even though you have a proper structure. And I think Create React App is not much compatible with the uh, React or whatever the standard way you could use the proper front-end structure or folder structure, because you
Yeah,
have
we
to,
have to manually architect the folder structure to
yeah,
match
always.
with our
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah, maybe that might be different. There may be so many different reasons for that, but right now, like you mentioned, we could use White as a build tool, also Next.js, and also React Router DOM, because with all those things, you have to be very um you actually it is very open for you then
Hmm.
if you create React application using White or React Router DOM, or using build tool like, or using server tool like Next.js. It is
Yeah,
very open for you to handle with all the structures, and the the routing structure will be automatically with you. So that's actually a big difference. Okay. One last question with the tools you are using around React application, not directly React. Have you used SonarQube?
yes, I have.
For what purposes, and what was the advantage you got
Basically,
using
I have
SonarQube?
used for the code quality analysis
Hmm.
and automated code reviews because it suggests our mistakes we have done during the coding, and it also help us to uh, overcoming those mistakes and giving the examples to how we can fix those code issues, and ensuring the coding standards followed by all over the world rather than adhering to our own coding standards. It's force developers to maintain a good coding standards. So, and also, in the same time, it's detecting the security vulnerabilities in our code and technical debt. Also, SonarQube is calculating and giving us a scores. So based on that, we can uh, take the decisions. For me, like as a technical lead, for my junior team members, I can ask, uh, get their code and run in the SonarQube and show them, hey guys, see, these things are the standard coding standards. You have missed those things. Please fix them. You have the examples there. So then ultimately we should get a very good quality code from the junior members as well, and they will get a good learning curve as well. And also we can integrate the SonarQube with the CI/CD pipelines when the code push into a particular branch, or even for the junior developer or senior developer, whoever try to do a pull request into a development branch. Before that, we can trigger a SonarQube run and test the code. And if that is failed, not going to merge with the branch, and then we can ask from the developers to do the necessary stuff and fix the code.
Okay, that's good. And also you get the benefit of reviewing PRs using SonarCloud as well, right? So
Yeah.
when you push PR, it will automatically be evaluated by the SonarCloud instance. Right. Do you have any infrastructure or cloud infrastructure experience like in AWS?
Yes. My majority of cloud experience is in with AWS. With Google, GCP, and Azure is not that much. Only couple of services I have used from GCP and Azure. But when it comes to the AWS, I have been able to work with most of the popular AWS services such as VPC for managing the secure cloud resources for EC2, RDS, and etc. And AWS S3 for storaging stuff, and again RDS I have used for the PostgreSQL database. As for a couple of applications I have previously I worked on, and especially I had a good experience with AWS Cognito. So for identity management, one of the application uh, I worked, I had to do from the scratch the authentication authorization part. So what I have choose is the AWS Cognito because the the entire application has been using the AWS related services like Lambda, step function, and the database also in the AWS cloud. So then I decided to choose the AWS Cognito for that application, not a large application, very small one. So we went with that. So again, worked with the Lambda and step functions as well for especially for like some ETL scenarios for the large set of data transaction for report generation and dashboards. I have used Lambda plus then the step functions for those mechanisms. And finally, for my small websites and other stuff, I'm particularly using the AWS Light Sales as well
Okay.
because it's pretty much in pre-built the stuffs are there. So we just need to go and spin up and run the light sail computing machine, and maybe for WordPress or Node.js server or even for a Drupal application, there are a lot of options available, pre-built versions within 10 to less than 10 minutes we can have the all the infrastructure available for a small customer website or something like that.
Right. That's good. That's good. So since you worked as a lead engineer or tech lead, you must have handled different kind of teams under your supervision.
Yes.
So can you mention what was the biggest team you have been involved with as a team lead, and what was the challenge you were faced at that time, and what was the solution you took?
Yeah. I have been like managed like up to four to five projects as a tech lead. So recently the one of recent project like that is kind of my biggest challenge because most of the senior to mid-level experienced engineers are not in that team. I have to manage a very junior team, like with interns, and only one senior level engineer is there. So that is kind of a very challenging environment for me because I have to do the like technical lead part plus the technical team project management part as well. Because in this assignment, the management is not expecting me to do the coding, but I have to guide the team to do the coding. But with the latest trend, since especially in our country, the senior to mid-level engineers are leaving the country, but we have to work with the most of the time junior engineers. So we have to give our best experience to them, how you have to face in a kind of a situation for them to getting from our examples and teaching them, giving the best resources to learn for them, and like unless they can't overcome from a situation, like if they are facing issue with any bug or kind of a thing to resolve. So if they are taking much time, only I we have to involve. Other than that, I feel like we have to guide them in the right path rather than doing code for themselves, right? Go and
Right.
get their laptop and hey, whatever junior engineer,
Yeah.
show me your code, let me show fix this, and hey, see, this is how you have to fix, and shout out to him. Rather than doing that, we have to guide them, just giving the right resource and try to get into the path, and then only when a very different scenario, only we have to go into that situation. That is a kind of a situation currently we are facing at our industry. Couple of projects actually. Lot of senior members are not in the team. I'm the senior one, and there's another mid-level senior junior. And with the interns, we have to uh, ramp them up into a uh, kind of a specific standard to set their expectations in the right way, in order to give a good future, because we can't blame to them directly, so we have to guide them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's the next to be spreaded, and that's the next. I mean, that's the spirit we need to bring up to the next level. So when we are moving out from the industry one day, right?
Because
That it is.
we had
Yeah.
like a pyramid structure in our time, but
Yeah.
now that's not a pyramid stuff. Pyramid structure, there is a senior level and the very junior level. The
Yeah.
middle structure is very less.
Yeah. It is gone best because of different reasons. Yeah, I agree. Cool. It is almost 2 hours, I think. Yeah, it is. And I think we had a very good discussion rather than having question answers uh, kind of uh, rather than having a question answers basic interview. So thank you very much for that. Um, I think we can conclude the interview. Do you have any questions for me? If not, we can conclude the interview.
Yeah, thank you, Prasad, for inviting me for this interview. So that is a good thing, I think. After several years, I think I'm facing this kind of interview, because I haven't got opportunity to face this kind of a lengthy interview in a recent past. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So it is a help to me, and again for the all the other audience available around the world, and especially in Sri Lanka, to get an experience how this kind of interview process is happening.